How obvious is it which one of these designs was made by a beginner and which one was made by an advanced designer? Why is one of these advanced and the other a beginner? What makes it so? And why does it matter to you as a graphic designer? Let's first look at the beginner design. Now, there are 4 main reasons or areas on this design as to why this poster is considered a beginner level design, and why it fails to reach up into that more advanced stage of graphic design skill. Trying to think to yourself what they might be. The first obvious thing here is that the design is very cluttered in nature. An advanced designer knows the importance of white space, and even if the client gives them loads of materials to work with on the design, they can still prevent it from being too cluttered. This design seems confusing and chaotic, and yeah, sure, sometimes a brief might call for that, but that's not the case here. The second thing that tells me this is a beginner level design is the inconsistent use of fonts and colors. The advanced design also mixes up the font use, but that actually works on that design, and we're going to look at that soon. But back on the beginner level design, I can see at least 5 different typefaces, which simply leads to things looking unprofessional. The differing font selection here kills any sense of visual language on the design itself. And in turn, it actually makes the vibe or the feel of the design completely lost. The color scheme is almost okay. If we change the bright pink circle and the dark blue line to a color that already exists elsewhere on the design, then we are actually one step closer to a decent color palette here, really. And again, a strong color palette leads to a strong visual language, which is essential for quality design. Okay, so the third thing on this design that leads me to think it's beginner tier level is to do with one design principle, and that is visual hierarchy. There isn't a clear-cut focal point for a start, and especially when we consider the typography, where we see a very poor use of visual hierarchy. When a design fails to have a strong sense of hierarchy, the audience can become lost or not feel into what the most important part of the message is or the information itself on the design. Matched with a cluttered design like we see here, things can easily become a nightmare visually speaking. And lastly, simple alignment. There are several areas on the design where alignment has been ignored or just totally misunderstood. Alignment isn't just for those designers who have OCD. It's actually the backbone to creating a visually strong design that is effective in delivering a message. Okay, so let's move into the more advanced poster design. Again, there are 4 clear things we can study and bring into our own workflows and designs that suggest, yes, this is an advanced design. Firstly, let's check in on the alignment of this design. If you see around the edges, we can see the design assets are aligned perfectly, and this keeps a nice clear border to our design here. Also, the text is aligned neatly, and this just sets up the conditions for a visually appealing and effective design. The second thing that suggests a strong advanced designer made this design is the excellent use of balance. We can see a strong focal point in the middle, and then balanced above and below is the information. There is also a clever use of balance found between the bold, flat design assets of the typography and the rectangular panels, contrasted with the high detail photographic style graphics. The color palette is balanced really nicely as well, and this leads on to the third hallmark of this design being somewhat advanced. The color palette is strong, and it doesn't seem lost or just a random choice. It's made up of colors that play into a visual language of modern tech, that being purples, blacks, and lime greens. And by the way, fun fact, this is one of my favorite color palettes, but of course in the right situation. The use of fonts here is actually quite interesting because, like the beginner design, we do see a mix mash of different font selections. However, it doesn't look crude or amateur here on this design. In fact, it looks inspired and well thought out. We can see a very bold and inflated font with a large text, and then a more refined modern sans serif for other areas. This pairing simply works well, and it's used in a considered way that doesn't look confusing or lacking any design skill. And the fourth aspect of this design that tells me, yes, this is an advanced designer making this, is the smart use of visual hierarchy. We did mention the photographic HD looking focal point. This would be the hierarchy tier 1 focal point. And notice how it ever so slightly bleeds over the borders at the top of that rectangle. The designer could have just not allowed the edges to touch, but bleeding over in this way adds extra depth and sophistication to the design. The typography utilizes hierarchy in a great way too. There's no confusion as to where to read first or what is the most important bit of information. Hierarchy of size and color allows us to fully get the feeling of what to look at and where to move next. Something that can really hamper a designer's workflow is simply just a lack of time. And for those of you who work on UI and UX projects, it can be very draining trying to make code that works effectively each and every time. PixelFree Studio can solve a bunch of headaches that developers and designers routinely endure. For example, you can take your app or your web design project from design to code with just one simple click. PixelFree Studio can actually generate your code in 6 different languages and massively reduces the potential of coding errors. And as we know, handwritten code is subject to a whole host of typos and problems, so this service eliminates just all of that. You simply make your design, export it and generate the code, and then host it anywhere you want. It's really as simple as that. It also has a solid Figma import feature, and you can supply code from Figma up to 10 times faster than, say, Webflow. You can also custom design your very own module elements with PixelFree Studio. And for those who aren't too savvy when it comes to coding, this means you can design without having to hire developers and get your code automatically. Perfect. There are also a bunch of templates to choose from, with new templates coming very soon. Now you can try out PixelFree Studio by clicking the link in the description box below and see how easy it is to turn your designs into code just like that. Let's take a look at another pair of designs now, but this time we're going to look at them in a more practical sense. So here are 2 social media designs. Do you think these are advanced or do you think these are beginner level? Now there are 3 key traits on these designs that tell me they are in fact beginner level. The first one being that these look obviously like templates, and they look like templates that have been customized very minimally or just not at all. When making social media designs, things need to be original. They need to be eye-catching and interesting. Templates like this simply just don't cut the mustard. The second thing which no advanced designer would do is to use low-quality imagery. If you look closely here, the quality of the imagery isn't that great. Things are not crisp and they're not high resolution. Granted, we have to work with what's given to us by our clients. But these days, you can always enhance imagery in AI software for free, things like Let's Enhance, #not sponsored. In the modern world of design, there is zero excuse to be using low quality imagery, and when seen on social media posts like this, it just comes across as very, very unprofessional. The third trait on these social media designs that isn't great is the poor use of typography. The style is mismatched and it doesn't help promote the design's message and information whatsoever. The visual language doesn't fit with the theme, and it looks like it's just been slapped on there without much care. There is also one more aspect of these 2 designs that dictates that things are kind of lacking here, and it's the fact that we have static graphics. Static graphics are fine for social media posts, but in the modern day, the use of motion graphics is a lot better, and things are next level when that's done. For example, these 2 designs here. Yes, we have motion graphics on these designs, but look how integrated the graphic style is with the theme of the social posts. This is miles away from being a template cookie cutter cliche kind of post. It's really unique and it's really inspired. The typography here fits right into the visual language perfectly so. Unlike the beginner social media designs, these ones have typography that is modern and aligns with the cutting edge graphics. So if you were scrolling social media and you came across this, you likely would be intrigued in a far bigger way than the beginner post that you just saw earlier. So the main takeaway from looking at these beginner and advanced designs is actually visual language. Working in fonts, color palettes, imagery, and styles that align with a specific language is absolutely crucial. And it's something that beginner designers either don't know about, haven't learned yet, or simply just don't understand. If you want to brush up on your existing graphic design skills or find some new ones, just click that video on screen. But until next time guys, design your future today. Peace.